Rugby Australia Chair Hamish McLennan was ousted last night at a crisis board meeting. Obviously, Rugby Australia hasn't had a great year, but how much of this is actually his fault? I'm told that McLennan has been a strong and decisive leader as chair, while the Rugby Australia board is risk-averse and beige. The trouble for Hamish escalated when he embarked on reforms to centralise the state-based bodies. There was also criticism over his hiring of Eddie Jones, described as a failed experiment. All of the animosity against him was then kicked along by a smear campaign in the gossip pages of the 9 newspapers. Figures like John Howard and John Coates came out to support him over the weekend, but it was all too late. The man who has dominated the headlines for weeks joins me live now. Welcome to the program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Look, the unions released quite a stinging letter against you on Friday. I'll just quote from it. They said that your decisions and captain's picks directly led to an historic failure at the Men's Rugby World Cup, also a Wallabies international ranking at a historic low. What's your response to the unions effectively blaming you for the poor performance?
I think that's a bit cute. Since 2015, where we made the final of the Rugby World Cup, we've been on a slide. In 2019, we got knocked out in the quarterfinals, and we haven't won a Rugby World Cup in over 22 years, and we haven't won a Bledisloe Cup in over 20 years. So I don't think you can blame one person or one individual.
Where do you think this depth of animosity towards you came from?
Look, I think it certainly came from the ACT Brumbies in Queensland. I think I've had some broad support from West Australia with Andrew Forrest and Nicola Forrest in the Force, the Victorians and New South Wales people. So I think it's inaccurate to make it sound like I've just got everyone against me in that regard. But I think I've annoyed a lot of people with some of the calls that I've made, but I think rugby has needed strong leadership for quite some time, and it got a bit feral.
One of those calls, the hiring of Eddie Jones?
Yeah. One of the most successful coaching exports in the world. He happens to be an Australian, as you know, and you look at it and you go, he's got 3 separate teams to Rugby World Cup finals. And so it was really disappointing, our result, but it was a board decision. I certainly led the discussions.
Not a captain's pick?
No, not at all. And actually, in the board meeting last night, it was highlighted that it wasn't a captain's pick. And I think that would unfairly portray the board as being a bunch of followers, and they're not. So everyone shared the decision. I certainly led the discussion, negotiated the deal. But Eddie is a fantastic coach. It didn't work out this time. So is it all Eddie's fault, or is it the system? And I think it's the system.
Look, you've often traded barbs with Peter V'landys. That was reported in the Oz today. You are the only rugby union leader to try and take on the NRL by poaching Joseph Suaalii, $1.6 million salary figure that you confirmed on Ben Fordham this morning. Do you think this put a target on your back as well, the fact that you were trying to take on the NRL?
Oh, look, no doubt. Actually, walking into the studio tonight, I was talking to Joseph. He is a lovely guy and he will fill stadiums. He's a prodigal talent. He's a lovely person. His family are terrific. And so you will always get divided opinion on calls like that. But I can tell you, as somebody who's worked in marketing and promotion, he will actually put bums on seats. And he's a fantastic, footballer. So he'll be fantastic for Australia.
I've been told that some of the sponsors who are loyal to you, like Cadbury, have been wobbling today. Have you heard this?
Look, if you read the articles over the weekend, I mean, I've had quite strong support from the Cadbury client. They're wonderful people, very professional. What they do next, I wouldn't, entertain with them. It's really up to them, and they're a mature, very
some sponsors might walk.
They may not. I don't know. And so, I hope they all stay with rugby.
You've been the subject of a smear campaign. A lot of this played out in the pages of the 9 newspapers, Fin Review gossip column. How much did this contribute to what happened last night?
Oh, look, I think it had a lot to do with it. I think, it was put to me by several sources that there was an orchestrated campaign and a bit of a hit job. I think those newspapers would probably deny that, but I think it was quite unrelenting, and I'm sure it had a major factor.
And some of the reports were wrong, the allegations that you were partying in Paris, for instance.
Well, I can tell you I wanted to be home 4 to 6 weeks prior, after we got kicked out of the race for the quarterfinals, out of the pool matches. you know, we were doing a lot around World Cup lobbying. The accommodation wasn't extravagant. A lot of it was paid for by World Rugby, and I think it was really unfair, but that's life.
Look, obviously it's a tough time for you at the moment. Have you given, and this is only less than 24 hours after, you know, you were ousted as chair, so I understand it's early, but have you given any thought to other things you would like to do next?
Oh, well, look, there are some great business opportunities I want to look at, but also my wife Lucinda and I have sort of been looking at the rise of anti-Semitism, and I think there's more that we can do to lean in and support that cause too, because I think it's disgusting what's happening out there.
That's amazing to hear you say that and call it out publicly. Thank you so much. I think I agree with you. It is disgusting, and non-Jewish leaders can play a big role in trying to tackle it. Look, someone you serve alongside at the REA board, Kelly Bayer Rosemarin, is also having a tough time at the moment. Yeah. I said earlier on the show tonight that I think she's being held up as a scapegoat. The outage was triggered by an event offshore with Optus's parent company Singtel. You know, what's your view on the pile-on against her?
Look, I really feel for Kelly too. She's been a great contributor to the REA board. It's a $22 billion company. When the share price is upward, that's our peak. You know, we're very loyal. So, you know, we wish her the best and we're here to help her.
Hamish McLennan, I so appreciate you coming up and sitting down for this interview on what I can imagine is a tough time, but I love the approach that you expressed on radio this morning about being philosophical about it all. It's just a game. It's
just a game, so, you know, life goes on.
It does indeed.
Okay.
Look forward to seeing what you do next. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.